Alright, there are many tragic characters in Mortal Kombat lore, but I feel like no one mentions just how tragic of a life Sub-Zero has lived in 2 timelines. And he's going on his 3rd. But we're not talking about Scorpion today. We're looking at the sad circumstances that is the life of Sub-Zero. Okay, so Kuai Liang and his brother Bi-Han were trained as assassins at a young age. Kuai was trained to kill, but he was never originally meant to become Sub-Zero. That title was given to Bi-Han. Originally under the name of Tundra, Sub-Zero spent most of his time with his friend Tomas, aka Smoke. That was until Bi-Han was murdered at the hands of Scorpion. Another story for another day. The Lin Kuei bestowed the name Sub-Zero onto Kuai following his brother's death, and he also assumed his brother's original mission of eliminating Shang Tsung with Smoke by his side. However, his focus went beyond his mission. Sub-Zero and Scorpion seem to have been on a collision course in the second tournament. Sub-Zero learning that Scorpion murdered his brother and was entering the tournament, and Scorpion learning that somehow Sub-Zero was alive again and competing. However, Scorpion, after seeing Sub-Zero spare an opponent's life, learned that this one was different and later learned that he was Bi-Han's younger brother. Sub-Zero was also left confused when his life was spared by Scorpion as well, though that wouldn't be the only bit of confusion Sub-Zero would find. He later discovered his brother Bi-Han was no longer dead, but instead was resurrected as the Wraith Noob Saibot. Darker and twisted, Bi-Han was not the man Kuai once knew. His brother's killer remained, Shang Tsung was still alive, and his brother was corrupted. Nothing in life was going right for Sub-Zero at this point in time, but things always found a way of getting worse for him. At this point in time, the Lin Kuei began the Cyber Initiative. They would convert all warriors into soulless cyborgs to carry out assignments. Sub-Zero and Smoke, not wanting to conform to this new vision of the clan, rebelled and fled the Lin Kuei. No longer masked or affiliated with the clan, Sub-Zero and Smoke looked to fight for honor. That was until the Cyber Lin Kuei found and apprehended Smoke. Now Sub-Zero found himself on the run from Cyrax, Sector, and his former friend, Smoke. Sub-Zero joined Raiden in fighting for Earthrealm against Shao Kahn's invasion. He was able to convince Smoke that he had an independent soul of his own, and even got Cyrax reprogrammed to fight alongside Earthrealm. He at least fulfilled his goal of helping to save the realms, even at the cost of his friend, who found himself apprehended by Shao Kahn. As we head towards a new era in Mortal Kombat's original timeline, Sub-Zero would be hunted once again by Scorpion. Scorpion had now been brainwashed by Quan Chi to believe that Kuai Liang aided in his family's murder. Before his apparent and seemingly coming death, Sub-Zero revealed to Scorpion that when he killed him, the murder of his clan would still remain free. Quan Chi, in an absolutely stupid act, didn't wait for Scorpion to actually kill Sub-Zero and revealed that he had manipulated Scorpion all the while, and in a way Bi-Han, and was the true murderer of his family and clan. This sent Scorpion's aim of revenge from Sub-Zero to Quan Chi, and Sub-Zero had seemingly found himself free from the undead ninja's vengeance. So as one problem is solved for Sub-Zero, a new one arises. Sector had slain the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei, who, depending on the source material, may or may not have been his actual father, and looked to take over the clan. However, Sub-Zero, possessing the Dragon Medallion of the Lin Kuei, defeated Sector and took over as Grandmaster instead. He moved the clan from the Arctic, ended the Cyber Initiative permanently, and trained the warriors not to be ruthless killing machines. Around this time, Kuai Liang also would find an apprentice, a woman codenamed Frost. While an amazing fighter, Frost was arrogant, impulsive, and combative, but Sub-Zero still saw potential in her, for whatever reason. After Liu Kang's death at the hands of the Deadly Alliance, Raiden enlisted the Lin Kuei in Earthrealm's aid. However, Frost, greedy for power, tried to steal Sub-Zero's Dragon Medallion. The medallion, while powerful in a user's hands, had consequences. Its power had temporarily accelerated Sub-Zero's aging with its use, and in Frost's hands, it almost completely consumed and killed her. Sub-Zero, believing that Frost was dead, felt responsible. After the fall of Earthrealm's forces and the resurrection of Onaga, Sub-Zero found himself in Outworld, both to stop Onaga's takeover and after learning that the Lin Kuei came from a clan of chiromancers in Outworld, looked to find a burial ground for Frost. After discovering ancient armor that enhanced his powers and abilities, Sub-Zero would meet Serena, a former ally of his brother Bi-Han, and he allowed her asylum within the Lin Kuei as she escaped from the Netherrealm. However, he would find himself led directly to the Netherrealm and attacked by Noob and Smoke. To make matters worse, members of the Lin Kuei clan were left slain by Frost, who had awakened and wanted revenge against Sub-Zero. Revenge for what? Who knows? Her mind was completely unstable at this point. Sub-Zero, in another strange move, captured Frost, battled and defeated Frost, and froze her. He kept her with the intention of making her answer for her crimes against the Lin Kuei. Why he didn't just kill her when he had the chance, I don't know. That would have made for a nice answer for her crimes too, but justice, I guess. Before the Battle of Armageddon, Sub-Zero had met Taven and led him to the gift left by Taven's mother after the two had a short confrontation. Taven helped Sub-Zero deal with an awakened Frost, as well as a returning Noob and Smoke, further cementing that his brother and former friend were long gone at this point, though he did vow to cleanse Bi-Han's soul. Of course, this never happened. As we all know, the end of the battle at the Pyramid in Armageddon, Sub-Zero and pretty much the entire cast of Mortal Kombat would not survive the battle. This would be the end of Sub-Zero's life in the original Mortal Kombat timeline, a life that was riddled with sadness, betrayal, and heartache all the way through. Sub-Zero really didn't have an easy time in the original timeline of Mortal Kombat. Have no fear, however, as Raiden would send a message from the future to his past self, creating a new alternate timeline that would serve Sub-Zero no better than the first one did. So now we enter into a new timeline. In this timeline, Kuai initially was no different than his former self. He would abandon the name Tundra, assume the identity of the new Sub-Zero after Bi-Han's death. The only real departure from his previous timeline came in the second tournament, and it was a big one. Almost getting his revenge against Scorpion, Sub-Zero would find himself hounded by the Lin Kuei. As Raiden and others just sat back and watched it happen, Kuai would be transported to Earthrealm and begin his cyber initiation. Unlike the original timeline when it was Smoke converted into a cyborg, Kuai Liang would become Cyber Sub-Zero. He wouldn't stay this way for long, or at least mentally, and luckily he would be saved by Cabal along with the Special Forces to get him his identity back, all the while still trapped in this cybernetic form. He began working with Earthrealm against Outworld. However, he would be completely caught in Sindel's deletion spree against Earth's forces. I believe she knocked off about 8 or 9 characters in one shot. This would lead to Sub-Zero now being resurrected as a revenant of Quan Chi. Quan Chi would eventually give Sub-Zero his original body back as well. During the Earthrealm battle against the Netherrealm, Quan Chi would be defeated by Sonya, which is crazy when you think about it, leading to Raiden being able to restore Sub-Zero back to his original form. To pay his debt for his actions as a revenant, Sub-Zero and the newly reformed Lin Kuei would dedicate themselves to Earthrealm's safety, but he had another debt to pay as well. According to the comics for Mortal Kombat X, Sub-Zero spent some time training with Boraicho and exterminated Sector to reclaim the Lin Kuei, yet again, but he also met with Scorpion to inform him of the truth of his clan's demise and the Lin Kuei's place in it. Scorpion and Sub-Zero would make amends and create a truce between the clans. For the first time, Sub-Zero and Scorpion would be allies instead of enemies. True allies, almost even friends. Sub-Zero would also aid the Combat Kids in order to help restore Earthrealm before it was fully corrupted by Shinnok. It's all downhill from here though. A time quake caused by the Titan, Kronika, would snatch members of the Lin Kuei away from Sub-Zero. As the original timeline merged with this new one, the Lin Kuei would begin the Cyber Initiative all over again. This also meant the revival of Sector. With Scorpion's aid, Kuai would infiltrate the new Cyber Lin Kuei factory to save his people and prevent an assault pending against the Shirai Ryu, Scorpion's ninja clan. He would be way too late, however, as his clan was already converted thanks to Sector and Frost. Again, she is absolutely no help to Sub-Zero whatsoever. After defeating the two of them, he would have an unholy reunion with his brother, Noob Saibot, and after confronting him once again, he managed to free Cyrax and stop the cybernetic reproduction of the Lin Kuei. It seemed at this point like things could possibly be starting to look up for Sub-Zero and he at least had a path forward. But as every point in this video or this series would lead you to believe, nothing goes right for Sub-Zero. Kuai Liang would attempt to aid Raiden's forces in the final battle against Kronika. In the ending of this battle, Sub-Zero, like many if not every other Mortal Kombat character, would eventually be lost to time itself, as history was completely restart in the end. This would be the tragic finale of Kuai Liang as Sub-Zero. As most of us know, he has been resurrected in Liu Kang's new timeline at the side of Bi-Han, who has resumed his role, temporarily, as Sub-Zero before being turned back into Noob Saibot for the third time. Kuai Liang now serves as the new Scorpion, and at the time that I'm recording this video, no Sub-Zero currently exists in Mortal Kombat's timeline, though I am almost certain that that'll change and Sub-Zero will be back in the future. As who is anyone's guess? Whether Kuai Liang fares better as a Scorpion instead of a Sub-Zero remains to be seen, but I would almost venture to guess it can't get much worse.